what the fuck?
Two dads, best friends, zero filter. Welcome to the
Bro, what the fuck?
podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Bro, What the Fuck. I am one half of the host of Bro, What the Fuck. I am Jay Raider, and this is my UFC 329 recap and breakdown. Before we go ahead and get into the video and the breakdown, make sure you guys hit that like on this video, share it to all social media platforms, and of course, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well. We have brand new content coming out really soon. New episodes dropping really soon, the next couple of weeks. So make sure you guys go ahead and tap into that. And then I'm going to be dropping some content as well on the channel. So again, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications as well. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get into the highly anticipated UFC 329 from this past weekend, from this past Saturday. And then obviously everybody has been really looking forward to this fight for majority of this year, if not for kind of been a year in the making. And, if you guys have been kind of living under a rock for the last, 4 or 5 days now, you kind of know what the outcome was. But we're going to go ahead and break down some of these fights, starting from the prelims, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about McGregor versus Holloway 2 and everything that kind of went on in that fight as well. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're going to go ahead and start off again in the prelims in the bantamweight division. We're going to go ahead and start with the fight between Adrien, Yanez, and Cody No Love Garbrandt. This was kind of a little bit of bar burner. It started off hot. Cody really took it to Yanez, and there was a part that Yanez, and he said this in a post-fight interview, once he got that opening rush from Cody, once he got hit a couple times, he was like, I'm going to bite down on that mouthpiece and I'm going to go to war. And that's exactly kind of how it was through this kind of short fight. They only lasted one round, but it was a lot of good exchanges. But as the round progressed, you saw Yanez really take hold of the fight with the real crisp striking, with the real crisp boxing. And Cody came out kind of wild, that traditional, Cody style fighting that we all know and recognize. And that was no different in this fight. The only difference is that Cody really started hot off the gate and really pressured Yanez in the opening round. But again, as the fight progressed, Yanez really was the better boxer, and that was really evident. And I got a clip. We're going to go ahead and take a look towards the end of the fight, and you see Yanez really display that crisp boxing that I'm mentioning. And Cody was definitely rocked and eventually finished. So let me go ahead and play the. And we definitely saw a good fight. And hey, shout out to Cody. I mean, 35. He's still trying to go ahead and compete at the same level. But as we know, he's now kind of on the latter half of his career. This may be possibility the end of Cody No Love Garbrandt in the UFC. We might see the last. This might be essentially his last fight in the UFC. There was reports of him taking his gloves off at the end. Don't know really what that means. Nothing really has been kind of said, but if it is his last fight on his own accord, or maybe UFC decides to go ahead and release him, that which could definitely be a possibility. We've seen that in the past with other fighters. That might be, this might be the case where that actually happens, and it might not necessarily be a bad thing. I'm pretty sure Cody will, he's already established his name, his brand, and he'll probably land somewhere in the PFL. Bare knuckle might be another possibility, and that might be a little bit more complimenting to his style. Kind of that striker with that power, but as we've seen, his jaw is not what it used to be. He definitely, once he gets hit, it does cause obviously some issues, and we've seen him, get stopped, quickly in previous fights. So we'll see what the kind of future holds with Cody. Obviously, 35 years old, not too many years left. The options might not be fully out there for him. Yanez, of his big win over Cody No Love, looked great. Definitely is going to go ahead and continue going up the rankings in the bantamweight division. So interesting to see kind of what's going to go ahead and happen there for Yanez, but definitely be on the lookout for this guy for sure. Okay, moving on to the next fight in the heavyweight division. We get the debut of Gable Steveson, and he's been kind of highly talked about as the protege of John Jones, making his debut in the UFC. Had only 3 fights before this past fight on Saturday, and he looked really good in his debut for sure. And this fight, again, kind of Gable came off a little bit wild off the gate, and obviously, the former gold medalist in his pedigree was a little bit kind of nervous. Obviously, we kind of know that octagon jitters, but having fighting in a big card like McGregor and Holloway, even if it's a prelim, he's still going to go ahead and have some jitter. And it kind of was evident during this fight. But as the fight progressed, Gable did go ahead and really clean up his striking. Elijah, tried to do the best he could, tried to go ahead and exchange. Actually, surprisingly, he took a couple shots, tried to go ahead and get the takedown on Gable. Don't know why, on Olympic gold medalist, but as you might imagine, it was pretty futile. So Gable really mixed it up. Once it kind of settled into the round, he started mixing up everything. Even feinted a shot in, and really started utilizing his kicks. Once those kicks started kind of getting through, he was able to go ahead and really mix that up with his punches. And he started to go ahead and really lay it on Elijah as the fight progressed. And I have a clip as well. We're going to go ahead and cut in towards the end of the fight, and we see kind of how Gable really utilized his strength, his size to his advantage to go ahead and finish off Elijah. And it was pretty impressive. Once he got settled in, he looked pretty impressive. So let's go ahead and go towards the end of the fight. As you see, Gable using his knees, throwing some punches. He came in at 241, so big, heavy guy, and he was able to go ahead and get the stoppage on Elijah, as you saw there. Referee had to go ahead and step in to go ahead and save Elijah from further damage. And so Gable Steveson wins his debut in the UFC, and striking, for him, being a wrestler was very impressive, and you could tell, him working with John Jones and Greg Jackson. They're out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they've really been working hand in hand, and that's pretty evident here in this fight. So I think the sky is the limit for Gable Steveson. And even though he kind of looked a little bit rough in the beginning, as he settled in again, his striking did get better, and it's only going to go ahead and improve. This is his fourth fight. I definitely see as he gets more fights, his striking is going to go ahead and only continue to improve. You can potentially see this guy being maybe possibly a future champion with this division. You can muster up, 3-4 wins and potentially be knocking maybe possibly on the door of a number one contender fight or title fight. It can definitely happen. If he continues to go ahead and have wins and finishes like this, he will definitely have a shot. Currently it's Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall. They're going to go ahead and eventually do their thing. And then you have Volkanov, number 2, Pavlovich sitting at 3. Then you have Pereira, who just lost to Gane, sitting at 4. And then obviously Gable's training partner, Josh Hokett, which is he also trains at Jackson's gym. He's sitting at number 5, and he's on an upper trajectory currently himself right now. So you never know. You never know. Maybe down in the future, it could be a situation where it could be, 3 fights from now, and Hokett and Stevens can potentially fight for number 1 contendership. It could definitely possibly go that way. Or you might see Hokett maybe having another fight or 2 before he's really knocking on the door from the winner of Gane and Aspinall. So we'll see what the future lies with Gable. Obviously, a lot of room for improvement, a lot of talent there. The guy, obviously, former gold medalist. So, wrestling is sound, striking is impressive, is continued. Obviously, it still needs some refinement, but if he's able to go ahead and really get that honed in, he's definitely going to be a guy to definitely, keep a lookout for, and really a guy who can be very dangerous. I would like to go ahead and see him cut down a little bit of weight, maybe get down to that 235, 230 mark, kind of that Cain Velasquez, Stipe Miocic kind of weight. And these guys, former wrestlers, but they had that quickness, that explosiveness. Gable has that in him. And I kind of maintain that weight around that 235, 240 mark. That'll be fine. If he is able to go ahead and get down to 230, that probably, that will give him some more speed, and, those hands will be even quicker with that power. So very excited to see what the future holds for Gable Steveson. But the future definitely looks promising. All right, we're going to go ahead into the next fight. This is the feature prelim fight. This is Robert Whittaker and Nikita Krylov in the light heavyweight division. Robert Whittaker making his debut in the light heavyweight. And I was a little bit surprised by it. I haven't really been following Robert Whittaker too much, but he decided to go ahead and move up to light heavy, which is great. He had a pretty good fight. Went 3 rounds. Was able to go ahead and get the finish towards the last round, but did struggle a little bit that first round. He did come in a little bit heavier, saw a little bit more fat on him, and he kind of showed that again in the opening round. You know, at a point you saw him breathing heavy, but he was able to go ahead and catch his breath and regain his composure and really tap in to his championship pedigree. And he was able to go ahead and start putting combinations together and really take it to Krylov in that end of that first and that second round. Going into the third, it was a little bit close, but Robert had kind of the upper hand on that. And we're going to go ahead and go into that that the third and final round, where Robert is able to go ahead and finish that fight in a very impressive manner. He actually breaks Nikita Krylov's jaw, which is insane. That punch was a little bit glancing, so it wasn't straight flush, but it's just kind of testament to Robert Whittaker's strength, where he's able to go ahead and really, land that blow and actually break his jaw, which is crazy. You can kind of see it. His jaw kind of just goes sideways, and you're like, what happened? And he kind of started biting, and he knew like that jaw's broke, or at least it's fucked up. It's fucked up basically. So let's go ahead and go into that clip, and we'll see Robert Finn get that off. And again, you see that right hook, and as soon as that happened, he his jaw, and he's like, "That's it. I'm good. I'm done." So, referee stepped in to go ahead and stop the fight. Very impressive win for Robert Whittaker. Again, debuting in the light heavyweight division. Don't know if he's gonna eventually stay there, or if he's gonna go ahead and return to middleweight. Either way, if he decides to go ahead and stay at light heavy, it is a challenge for him. But if he's able to go ahead and make a run, he might be able to go ahead and put something together. But it is kind of a tough division. Obviously you have Carlos Ulberg there. Pereira is still part of that division technically. Magomed Akilov, you have him in that division. Perjaka, I believe he's going to go ahead and fight. He's going to go ahead and get a title shot, from what I heard, really, really soon. Paul Costa, Jamal Hill, Khalil Rountree, Dominic Reyes, all those guys are in that division. So it's a little bit tough division. But obviously, Robert, being that former champion, if he's able, again, if these guys are able to go ahead and get finishes like this, they're able to go ahead and really jump up the rankings fairly quickly, as opposed to just going ahead and getting wins over decisions. So we'll see what the future holds for Robert Whittaker, but for sure, it is an impressive win for him in his debut in the light heavyweight division. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the main card. And UFC 329 starts off with King Green versus Terrance McKinney in the lightweight division. And I guess these guys were former friends. And Terrance McKinney was approached for this fight, and he quickly said yes or something like that. And they had a little bit of falling out. I don't know. I think they're cool now again after this fight. But it was kind of a little bit of it was an interesting fight. And the reason why I say that is because Terrance McKinney really put it on King Green majority of the fight, honestly. And this I don't know how King Green just pulled a rabbit out of his fucking ass and was able to go ahead and pull out a buzzer beater and actually finish the fight with literally 1 second left in the first round to go ahead and get the win. King Green was able to go ahead and set up a combination and land a big body shot that really put down McKinney, and he was able to go ahead and get that stoppage after that with literally a second or two remaining in the round. And we're going to go ahead and then go to that in a second. And again, it's just crazy how he was able to go ahead and really, pull it off and get that stoppage with 1 second left in that first round. So let's go ahead and go to the end of the fight. And as you hear, 10 seconds, and he was able to go ahead and land that blow to the body. And after that, Kenny went down, and King Green was able to go ahead and attack and be able to go ahead and finish the fight. So, props to King Green, local guy from California, from Fontana. Got the stoppage, man. Pulled it out, and a win's a win at the end of the day, and he's able to go ahead and continue on. He's a little bit on the older side. I believe he's like 38. So, I don't know if potentially we see this guy do a run anytime soon. I think he's going to go ahead and really, do those meaningful fights, try to do those big fights before he hangs it up at the end of the day. So we'll see what the future holds for King Green. Obviously, McKinney, he should be able to go ahead and bounce back from this loss. But it was a pretty interesting fight. McKinney essentially was running that whole fight, and it just took that one shot to go ahead and change the whole outcome of the fight, which is insane. So let's go ahead and move on to the next fight in the UFC 329 card. This was in the flyweight division, Brandon Royval versus Lonnie Kavanagh. And this was a barn burner for real. These guys went back and forth, a lot of striking, a little bit of a mixed bag on some of the takedowns. They did go to the ground a few times. And I honestly thought this probably was going to go towards a decision when I was watching this. And but Brandon was able to go ahead and pull it out and get the finish with the submission, surprisingly. And a very impressive finish at that with the rear naked choke on a tough Lonnie Kavanagh. So let's go ahead and watch the clip of that finish. And you see he already has the rear naked already cinched in. And at this point, it was just a matter of time before he can go ahead and really get Lonnie to go ahead and tap. And as you saw there, that's kind of all she wrote for Lonnie. And tough loss for Lonnie, of course. Still dangerous in that bantamweight division. But this definitely is going to go ahead and I'm sorry, in the flyweight division, but this is definitely going to go ahead and catapult Brandon. Was already kind of around the top 10. I'm sorry, the top 5. He moves up to number 3. Lonnie gets down out of the top 5. He's sitting at number 6 currently, which is not too bad with a performance the way he had. Even though he got finished at the end by a rear naked choke, it was really a back and forth battle between the two throughout the fight. So we'll see what the future holds for Lonnie, but for Brandon, you might definitely see potentially another title shot in the real near future. Maybe he's probably maybe one fight away of seeing that potentially happen. So interesting to see what happens there with Brandon Royval. Obviously, he's fought for the title before. Fought guys like Brandon Moreno and Pantoja as well. So we'll see what the future lies for him. All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and go into the next fight. This was, again, in the bantamweight division, Cory Sandhagen versus Mario Bautista. This went all 3 rounds toward the decision. There's not a whole lot to say. Obviously, it was it was technical. You had some takedowns, but Mario was able to go ahead and kind of get the better of the striking, and then ultimately that was able to go ahead and be able to give him the win towards the end of the fight. And Mario goes up into the rankings there. Now he's currently up at number 4. Cory drops down to number 5 in the bantamweight rankings. For Mario, I feel like he's probably a few fights away from being able to go ahead and really knock on the door towards getting a title run. But you never know. Obviously, in the fight game, you piece up a couple impressive wins and you're right there. So, but Cory Sandhagen, tough motherfucker, always is. And definitely he's going to be able to go ahead and bounce back. So it's a good win for Bautista, beating a guy like Sandhagen. And ultimately we might see something where Bautista and maybe maybe him and Sean go at it, or Davashili if he decides to go ahead and fight again soon. So we'll see what potentially could happen there in the bantamweight division. So it was, again, decision, 3rd round. Went all 3 rounds. So yeah, that was not a whole lot to say about this fight, but yeah, let's go ahead and move on towards the co-main event. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett versus Benoît Denis, or BSD, as some of y'all may know him. This fight ended early. Very impressive win for Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Called out the win beforehand, said he was going to go ahead and win in the 1st round by submission, and did not fail to deliver. Right on the money. And normally Benoit is kind of more of that, polished striker, and he didn't really do that in this fight. He pieced up a couple combinations and then went for that double leg. Kind of left that neck exposed once he shot in, and Paddy was able to go ahead and get a great grip, and was able to go ahead and finish him off with a wicked Darce choke. It was pretty impressive. Let me go ahead and pull that up. But Paddy, once he got that in, he knew already the fight was kind of already unlocked. Once he transitioned really into that Darce, he got it pretty cinched in right away, and was able to go ahead and make quick work of BSD. So let's go ahead and view towards the end of the fight. He already has it cinched in. Again, from that double leg takedown that Benoît Denis shot in. Let me go ahead and play that real quick. All right. Once he got that cinched in, and then you see Mark Goddard coming in and saving Denis right there shortly after. So once he checked up on him and he saw that he wasn't responding, that was it. Great win for Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. He is definitely on a trajectory to fucking Pluto right now. He is on another level. He has a lot of heat behind him right now. Is everybody in that crowd? If you weren't able to go ahead and watch it, try to watch a clip at the beginning of the fight. Everybody was chanting, "Oh, Paddy the Baddy." So he has it right now. He has that it factor. He's a hot guy right now. So you could definitely see Paddy potentially contending for a title shot, probably within a fight or maybe potentially in the next fight he runs it back with Justin. Who knows? Who knows? Um, it, it could be potentially Max and Paddy go at it for the number one contendership. These two guys, you saw this ended quickly within the 45 seconds of the first round for Paddy. Max, same thing, ended fairly quickly within a minute of the first round. So, and Max hardly got any damage on. We're going to go into that in just a second, but you can potentially see these two guys meet up really, really soon. I doubt Max goes up to welterweight, even though he did like the fact that he didn't really have to cut weight, and he was able to go ahead and pack it on a little bit. He had a really awesome camp from what he said. So despite that, I don't really see him staying at welterweight at all. I think it was just a one-off thing for the Conor fight. So who knows? We'll see. But all eyes are on Paddy Pimblett. And so, it could definitely happen that fast. Again, we'll see what the future holds for this guy, but the future is definitely bright for Paddy Pimblett for sure. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and talk about the main event of the evening, the highly anticipated fight, Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway 2, the first fight. That was over, 11 years ago, and they finally get to go ahead and run it back, almost a year in the making. A lot of people were talking about this. I remember a lot of people saying, why didn't Conor fight in the White House card? And kind of glad it turned out the way it did. That White House card was phenomenal. All finishes on that card, which is crazy. So if something like this would have happened on that card, it kind of would have tainted it a little bit. But it is what it is. Conor's a big draw in himself, and it made sense for the UFC to go ahead and give him his own pay-per-view or his own card, as you say. It worked out. It worked out the way it worked out, which is cool. Unfortunately, the walkouts, the intro were longer than the fight itself. Conor, during the fight, got injured, and basically, this fight was over fairly quickly. We're gonna go ahead and get I have a couple clips for that, and we're gonna go ahead and just go over as far as kind of how that fight came to be, and kind of what happened. So, the opening fight, Conor goes for a flying kind of scissor kick, and once he landed on that right leg, and it blew out, and he got up, tried to go for another kick, and slipped and fell again. He just gave out again, and it was kind of evident, and even Daniel Cormier calls that out. Within the first couple of slips, and say, "Hey, he keeps falling," and they start talking about could he got an injury or whatever. So I'm gonna go ahead and show the injury. We're gonna go ahead and show at the point where essentially he gets injured, and we'll take a couple other views as well. So let me go ahead and post that up. Here we go. All right, so this is kind of the opening of the round, and you'll see Conor come in again with that flying kind of scissor kick, and that right leg right there, gives out, and he goes down. He goes down on the canvas, and as you see, he's kind of grimacing in pain right away. He tries to throw another kick kind of shortly after that, as you see there, and then again goes down right away. Max, doing what he did, just trying to, land punches and whatnot. But he knew even himself something was off at that point, and didn't really want to go ahead and really strike with Conor. He even, turned to referee Mike Beltran, and let him know he was injured. And then once he kind of grabbed that ankle, that's kind of all what Mike Beltran needed to see to go ahead and call that fight. And again, ended fairly quickly. It ended kind of at around the 4-minute mark of the first round. Max really didn't take too much damage, took a couple leg kicks, and that's essentially it. Conor, on the other hand, as you knew, that fight ended before he even really started. Again, the walkouts and the introductions took longer than the actual fight itself, which kind of sucks because everybody was really pumped for this fight. I know I was very excited to go ahead and see Conor, return to the octagon. He's such a big draw. No matter what, Conor will always go ahead and pull people to watch him fight, which is great, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and show this other clip, and this is kind of before the fight actually happened. And so people say maybe possibly he created his knee there, or he could potentially already had come in with some type of ailment from training camp, and just kind of eventually gave out at the fight. So let me go ahead and kind of pull this up real quick. And again, this is Conor before the fight, warming up in the locker room, and he kind of throws in that kick as well. And he looks a little bit off, shaking it. Don't know if that's really anything, probably not. But with these things with the ACL tears, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. It could be the slightest little movement where you can go ahead and essentially tear an ACL. I heard somebody literally walk down the steps and tear their ACL. It's freaking crazy. So, the biggest thing here, I think, and I think that everybody's asking, is this the end of Conor McGregor? Is this the last we're going to see of Conor McGregor? I don't know. This guy is 30, 37, going to be 38. Not too many years left. An ACL tear. Obviously, I'm watching a lot of football. These guys go through ACL tears all the time. It's usually about a 6 to 9 month process. Could even go up into 12 months with the whole rehabbing thing and recovery and all that stuff. So he's supposed to get surgery sometime this week, and then you have about 6 to 9 months, possibly 12 months of rehabbing. And then once you kind of get away from that rehabbing, and then you go back into starting to get back into fighting shape, because essentially he's going to be sidelined for quite a while, right? For at least 6 months. He's not going to be doing anything, any physical type of activity on that knee. Obviously Raiders fan, Max Crosby, had knee injuries, got surgery. Guy was out, for 4 months on some type of scooter, and had a different guy blow out his ACL, was out for the whole season. With the whole thing with ACL tears, even if you get it surgically repaired, and surgery nowadays is totally different from what it was maybe 10, 15 years ago. Even with that, guys don't come back the same as they did. And it's a thing where you kind of always think about it, right? It's always going to be in the back of your head until you kind of forget about it, so you get comfortable with moving around and doing different movements with that leg. And once you get accustomed to it, then you start getting, feeling more comfortable with it. So with the whole thing with Conor, we're definitely going to go ahead and see him out for the next 18 months, if not 2 years. And that's if he decides to go ahead and even fight, right? So you have that as well. The guy has more money than he knows what to do with it. And we've all seen it with the whole shit that's been going on in his personal life and everything he's done and whatnot. He doesn't really need to fight at this point. This is more for him to something for him to prove to himself. Essentially, we kind of saw him come in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. A little bit different look for Conor. Though we saw a little bit of, though we saw the old Conor as well, you could see he was a little bit more different, a little bit more serious going into this fight with Max Holloway. And so, but with that being said, even with this whole injury and the ACL tear, it could potentially change things. So, it might change his outlook on whether or not he wants to go ahead and actually return to fighting. At the moment, he put out something that he's going to go ahead, he's going to overcome this and he will return. But, let's see what happens after the surgery. Once his rehabbing, how his, mental state's going to be at that point. Is he really going to go ahead and try to do a return? I think he has one more fight in his contract with the UFC. I'm pretty sure he's going to go ahead and fulfill it. I highly doubt UFC is going to go ahead and release him to go to, PFL or an MVP league with Netflix and do something with them. So I'm pretty sure they're going to go ahead and make Conor either retire or fulfill his last fight. And it doesn't matter who Conor fights. It could be Holloway, it could be somebody else, it could be Joe Schmo, whoever it is. Conor's a draw. Love him or hate him, whether you like him or not, or you don't. Conor McGregor is a draw. This guy could decide to go ahead and come back in 4 years and say, "Hey, I want to fight again." And guess what? You're gonna have the whole world tuning in. It's just that type of thing. So we'll see what happens, obviously, with Conor in the future, but we're not gonna see him anytime soon for sure. That's for sure. This guy's gonna be on the shelf, on the couch for the next 9 months at minimum. So it sucks, heartbreaking. It sucks for everybody who for me, hey, I watch this at home. I pay my Paramount Plus, and yeah, it sucked. I didn't get to see, Conor fight, but at the end of the day, I didn't really lose anything, because I still use my subscription for something else. But everybody who went into that fight, who spent airfare, there's a lot of people who went in. Those tickets are not cheap. They're about $400 to $500 starting, especially for that fight. I mean, I went to a Conor fight 11 years ago, 10 years ago, for Aldo versus McGregor, and that fight was about $350, around that mark, and that was bleeds. That was 10 years ago. I can only imagine now with whole inflation and everything, and hotels, airfare, and all of that. You had half of Ireland come out, UK, everybody, flying in from across the country, all over the world to go ahead and see Conor McGregor, and they only saw a minute of essentially kind of a sparring match more than an actual fight. So it kind of sucked. And my heart goes out to everybody who went to that fight. Hopefully you guys had a good time and were able to go ahead and enjoy it and other means. I mean, the rest of the cards, the rest of the fights were essentially really good fights. Again, from that Cody Garbrandt fight and up, except for the Bautista and Sandhagen fight, they're all were pretty impressive wins. So Good. I mean, good card overall, all around, except for the main event, which obviously everybody was there to go ahead and watch. But it is what it is. These things, unfortunately happen, and you can't really predict when it could happen. I mean, uh, anything could have caused the injury. It could have been overtraining. It could have been, walking. He stepped wrong, and that was it. And sometimes it's just those little things that will go ahead and cause a tear, especially to somebody who's been training for a long time, who's, he's on that latter half of his career, in his late 30s. Things start wearing down. So yeah, sucks for Conor. Sucks for everybody. Everybody was really pumped to go ahead and see this fight. So for Max, obviously we talked about Max earlier. There's still a huge road left for him. Still really in the mix in that lightweight division. Could definitely potentially be seeing Paddy fight for number one contendership. Again, these guys had almost no damage. So you could definitely see those two guys potentially meeting in the very near future. Ilya, he's going to be on the shelf for a while. That broken orbital bone on his face, he's going to be out for a little while. So that definitely leaves a door open for Paddy, Max, Charles Oliveira still in the woodworks. Armin Teskurian is also there. So you might see a little mini tournament potentially go down to go ahead and fight Justin probably towards the end of the year. Who knows? That's if the UFC decides to go ahead and give Justin the rest of the year off. Who knows, right? But knowing Justin, I'm pretty sure he's going to be itching to go ahead and get back into the gym, and pretty sure he's already there and get ready for the next guy, right? Next man up, who's going to go ahead and potentially challenge for his title. So very, very interesting, exciting things happening in the lightweight division. So definitely go ahead and keep an eye out on that. But that is my UFC 329 recap and breakdown. I hope you guys like this. Obviously, without being said, make sure you guys hit that like on this video, share it on all social media platforms, share it to a friend, a neighbor, your family members, everybody. Let them know. And hit that subscribe button on the channel. Of course, we got a lot of new content coming out. We're going to be putting out new episodes really soon. I'm going to be putting out some content myself. We're going to be doing a lot of comedic. I'm going to be putting out some comedic stuff. So if you guys haven't checked out the rest of the actual channel, check out the shorts. They're hilarious. Ed and I are going to be back putting out episodes really, really soon. So make sure you guys go ahead and turn on notifications for that as well. Make sure you guys go ahead and also catch us on Instagram at the Bro What the Fuck Show. Also on TikTok. We on TikTok now. So make sure you guys go ahead and tap into that as well. So, but again, thank you guys for joining me and just going over this recap and breakdown of UFC 329. And make sure, again, you guys go ahead and keep a lookout for the brand new content coming out really, really soon. But I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys on the next one.